Hi everyone, I'm Allie. Join me in creating these pretty little bicone rings using some right angle weave and ladder stitch technique. Remember, if you need any materials, go ahead and look below the video in the description. Hit that show more button to find links to shop with us online. So to begin my ring, I'm going to put a stop bead on the bottom of some 0.005 thread, and I'm not leaving a ton of room at the bottom of the thread. I just need enough to hold on to and tie to. And I'm sewing back up through a bead that's going to come off 2 times, sewing from the tail of the thread toward the top. We're going to begin with right angle weave, featuring our 15 OC beads in the Crystal Lab 4, full 11 OC beads in the same color, and then I have my 2mm Potomac crystals and my 6mm. I have 8 2mm, 4 for each side, and the 6 is going to go in the middle. The great idea for this is to use it as birthstone beads and then possibly your own stone in the middle, or you can do yours and your husband's on both sides, or your spouse, and then also in the middle for that. I'm going to begin by doing right angle weave, and I'm using 2 drops. So I'm using 2 beads for my bottom, 2 for the right, 2 for the top, and 2 for the left. Again, that's 8 total 15 OC beads, and I'm letting them drop down next to that stop bead. From here, I'm going to sew through the first 6 beads, through beads 1 and 2, through beads 3 and 4, and 5 and 6, which are going to be the right-hand side of the box. Giving a nice tight pull, you can see it's a little bit more circular. It'll get a little bit more box shape as we sit our crystals nestled in on top. From here, we're going to continue our right angle weave. So our right angle weave, our thread is currently coming out of the bottom of the right-hand side of the previous box. We're going to add 2 beads for the bottom of our next box, 2 beads for the right-hand side of the next box, and 2 beads for the top of the next box. What was the right side of the last box is now going to become the left of this current box that I'm working on. After adding those 6 beads and my thread coming out the bottom of those 2 beads, I'm going to sew into the top of those beads and bring the thread down. I always want to come out through the right-hand side, so I want you to sew through the bottom 2 beads of that little box, and then also through the right 2 beads of that little box. I'm going to make 4 boxes this side because I have 4 2mm crystals that I'm going to put on the side of my 6. So proceeding again, 2 now for the top, 2 for the right, 2 for the bottom. What was the right-hand side of the previous little box is going to be the left as I sew into the bottom since the thread is currently coming out the top. Once again, I need to make sure that I'm coming out the right-hand side, that the thread's exiting that. So I'm going to go through the 2 at the top. And you'll notice with right angle weave, it switches from top to bottom with each box where your thread's coming out. And then I'm going to go out through the bottom of those 2 beads. So again, the thread is coming out that right-hand side. Finishing up my last box on this side, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 beads on, 2 for the bottom, 2 for the right, 2 for the top. Coming back down through those 2 beads. Remember also when watching this, you can go into your YouTube settings and slow this down. You can also watch it again. And also feedback, give a little comment in the section below the video if you're having any trouble, if you have suggestions, or if you need any additional help, or if you like the project. That helps to give us feedback. So I now have 4 units or 4 boxes that are going to be on the side of my 6mm bead. To create my next right angle weave box, I'm going to be extending this side. So we're going to add an additional 11 OC bead to the top, and as we come back around, an 11 OC bead to the bottom. So currently I'm going to add 1 to the top, then I'm going to add 3 11 OC beads for the top of this next box. I'm going to add 1 11-0, 2 15-0s, and 1 11-0 for the right side of the box, followed by 3 11s for the bottom, followed by 1 more 11 OC bead to add to this left side. After I have those beads on, I'm going to sew back through the 2 beads that my thread is currently coming out of, as well as the additional 11 that I put on top. That's sewing back through the right side. Then we're going to sew through the 3 beads on the top, And then on the right side here, I want to sew down through the first 11-0 and through the two 11s, or I'm sorry, the two 15s. So I'm coming out before the other 11 here, which is actually the bottom of the box, or bottom of the right side rather, sorry. From here, we're going to repeat. So those two 15-0s, we're going to do 2 for the bottom, 2 for the right, 2 for the top, and just grab on to those two 11-0s to make my next smaller box. So you can see how it's getting bigger in one section and smaller. Not only can this be a ring, it can also be a great bracelet idea also. From here then, sewing again through the piece, so I'm coming out the right-hand side, and I have 3 more boxes to build. From here, we're going to add our crystals into the top setting or the top part of our ring. Also, again, great for a choker too, or just a simple little mother's bracelet. Now I'm going to flip this over because these are just sitting on top. And I'm coming out the right-hand side of that same right angle unit, just like I would be to add my next box on. Instead, I'm going to backtrack back towards the stop bead. Grabbing my yellow bead here, I'm coming out of the bottom of the right 2 beads. I'm going to sew into the top and down the 2 beads on the left-hand side of that box. Force the 2mm bead to sit right in the middle there. It'll look like it's bezel set. From here, I'm going to go with my peridot. Same deal, the thread's coming out of the right side of that box. At the bottom, I'm going to go into the top of the left side of that box. When that bead sits right over top. Same deal here with my cobalt or my sapphire. Going in, coming out the bottom of the right side, I'm going into the top of the left. Making sure as you're pulling that your crystals sit along the top of the piece. Lastly, I'm going to do my amethyst, coming through again out the bottom of the right side into the top of the left and down through those 2 beads. So it's a very, very simple embellishment of right angle weave. You'll notice a slight turn because of us going in and putting the crystals on in an angle. Don't worry about that. As we build the band of our bracelet, it will totally flatten out. When I get back to the center, I want to sew down through the next 11-0 C bead, which is actually part of the right-hand side. From here, I'm going to sew the whole way through just to reinforce a little bit, through the bottom, not adding the crystal, through the right-hand side, which is going to be 11, 2 15s and an 11, through the top, which is 3 more 11s, and then down through the right side, which again is 11, then your 2 15s, then 1 more 11. Just that thread line there starts to make that sit a little bit more nicely with the 3 C beads to the top and the bottom. Just like we've been doing on the other side, grab your 6mm bead, go over to the right side, and sew down through the right side through your 1 11-0 and your 2 15s. Make sure that 6mm also sits right to the top. If you do not want to see a lot of extra thread, you can go in and put a 15-0 C bead on either side of the crystal. From here, I'm going to repeat. The thread's coming out the bottom right, going into the top left. If you only want to use 3 beads or 3 crystals or different sizes, you can totally do that as well. Going in here, repeating that same step of that simple right angle weave embellishment, doing the exact same pattern on the other side. Again, birthstone in the middle, birthstones flanking it on the sides. Great for a bracelet, even some necklace or an earrings hanging down. It's really just a simple design. Once you're done through your last crystal, you can see how it's going to sit on my finger. Now I have a pretty small ring finger, so for mine, I'd think about doing less beads and maybe not repeating or continuing, just doing the small little beads the whole way around like an infinity ring. What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to do a simple ladder stitch. So we're going to pick up 2 of our 11-0 seed beads, sew into the 2 beads that your thread is coming out of. So it's coming out that top, I'm going to sew into the bottom. Grab a 15, sew through those 2. We're reinforcing right here. Grab a 15, sew through the 2 15s that are already there, back through the 15, and out through the 2 11s. From here, we're going to repeat the pattern. 1 15, 2 11s, 1 15, back into those 2 11s that your thread is currently coming out of. When you're doing that, skip over the 15, sew right into the 2 11s. The 15s on the outer edge just work to hide the thread a little bit. And once again, I'm reinforcing, going back through again, since this is my band and this is where a lot of tension is going to be on, I'm going back through and connecting those. Back through the 11 as well. If you want, you can add the 15s on when you go back through here, up to you. So an alternative is add your 2 11s. So back through the 11 your thread is currently coming out of. Add a 15. So through those 2 11s. So you can do it either step or either way. Add another 15. So back through the 2 original. And then once again through the 2 that you just added. And you can see that little pointed design of the band starting to happen. Once again, 2 11s on. Now you don't need to reinforce the thread. That's up to you. I like to do it especially on a ring. Coming out through there, add my 15, go back through the 2 that my thread is already coming out of, add a 15, back through the original 2, and then once again, back through the 2 11s that I just added, skipping over the 15. And there you can see the nice, simple design of the band that's going to be the whole way around the ring. Once you're done with your band, also another little simple, great bracelet idea for a wrap bracelet or to finish up a pair of earrings, have that nice cord down. From here, I'm going to go to the other side of the ring, making sure that it's facing down, and coming out those last 2 seed beads, I'm going to repeat what I did on the very side here, adding and going through that first side of the right angle weave. So going through those 2 beads that sit on the side of that first citrine. From here, back through the 2 seed beads that sit at the end of the band, and that links them together. You can see how that mimics one side to the other. From here, I'm going to add my 15s, just like I've been doing. 15 goes on, back through that 15. 15 goes on, back through the 2 11s, and once again through the 2 15s and out. Once you're through those 2 15s and out, we're going to get ready to embellish along the right angle weave with some more seed beads for that more substantial look. Once you have your band completely done, you're coming out of the 2 beads on the right hand side of that citrine. I'm going to add a 15-0 seed bead and then sew through the bottom 2 beads. From here, grab an 11-0 seed bead and sew through the next bottom 2 beads on that peridot one. I'm sorry, the olivine one. Go ahead then and grab another 11-0, sew through the next 2 under the cobalt bead. So you can see the repetitiveness here. Grab an 11-0, sew through the 2 under the amethyst one. Give a nice tight pull, and you can see how that makes that a little bit more boxy and makes the crystals look like they're more inset. From here, I want you to grab on to that 4 bead side of the 15's 11 and come out the right hand side of the middle 6 millimeter. Add a 15-0, sew through the top. Over here, once again, add a 15-0 and sew through the right hand side. Once you add that 15-0 and sew through the right, let me get my thread untangled here, You're going to see how that really defines that into its squared shape. Here at the bottom, add a 15-0. Sew through the bottom 3. So I'm just adding a 15-0 in the corners of all of these beads. Add a 15-0. Sew up through those top, or those right-hand side 4 beads again. 11, 2 15s, 11-0. See how just that squared that off and made it a lot nicer looking. From here, go through those 4 beads that sit at the top, the 5 beads, 15, 3 11s, 15. Come down through the right-hand side, but just through the 11 and the 2 15s. Now we're going back in to mimic this design. Going back in here, you're going to go through the 2 beads along the bottom of the amethyst. Add an 11 through the 2 beads of the cobalt. Add an 11, 2 beads under that olivine. So you can see it's just repetitive. We just went around the whole circle when we got to the 6. Add that in there, and there you go. When you get to the corner where your stop bead is, move it off to the side, add our 15. Sew through those 2 beads there. Add a 15. And I'm going to rotate this so now this is at the bottom. Adding a 15, sewing through the 2 there at the bottom. And now, once again, back to 11s to make almost that prong setting look. 11s go on, through the 2 at the bottom. 11s go on, through the 2 at the bottom. We're almost done. 11s go on, through the 2 amethyst beads, and out. You can see how that makes it just that nice substantial look as we go through. We still need to add our 11s onto this side. What we're going to do here is we're going to spin around, reinforcing that center design, going through the 4 11s that sit on the side here of the 6mm beads, then going through the top beads here, and then once again coming down through the beads on the left. So you're just sewing back through all those beads. When you come back through the beads on the left, exit after the 2 15s before that amethyst, just like we did the other side. Back through the 2. And now, once again, back to 11s. 11 through the 2 cobalts. So you can see how easy this is to modify through the 11s. The reason I did the band and didn't do this 11 establishment first is because I like when the thread catches onto the band and then back to the crystals, and there's kind of a transition between them. From here, go back through those 2 beads that sit near the citrine. Give a nice tight little pull. Get that starter thread out of the way. And that finishes up that beautiful mother's ring. So you can do this with all different size seed beads. You can do it with different amounts of beads. You can do it with just 15s and still doing that fun little almost picot style trim with the 15s and the 11s as the band. And really have fun using different size crystals to create a different look. It's fun how much it pops up and how, if you get asked about it, you can tell that story about what the different colors and significance of the crystals mean to you. What I did then to get my thread ends to come out at the same spot was I just zigzagged through the 2 beads in that ladder stitch, once again reinforcing the band, up the 2, down the 2, up the 2, down the 2, skipping over the 15s. That brings my thread out at the same spot as my stop bead. And because the thread is thin but durable, I can just go in here and tie it off to create a nice simple knot. I still have my thread and needle on one side. After doing these square knots, switching hands right to left, left to right, and then taking my needle and thread and separating it out from that knot by sewing up through the design a little bit. What that's going to allow me to do is burn my thread off, my thread end here off in 2 different sections Just take your thread zap or your thread burner, burn down that thread edge, burn down this thread edge, and then burn it flush along the project. And that finishes off your really fun, simple, and easy ring. Thanks so much for joining me in this simple bicone design. Remember, you can leave feedback, say what switches you made, and also if you use different size beads in that comment section below. Remember also, if you need any materials, hit that little down caret in the bottom right-hand side so you can shop with us online. Thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see all the different versions, necklace, bracelet, anklet, that you can make with these simple stitches. Enjoy, and on to the next video.